This week on the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast, we're joined by Daniel Daly, entrepreneur, automotive executive, and international real estate investor. Daniel shares the journey behind building a $600 million automotive business and transitioning into investing opportunities across Europe. We discuss entrepreneurship, leadership, commercial real estate, international investing, and why more investors are looking.
Hi, this is Joel Miller with the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate it, and we don't take you being here for granted. So I wanted to personally come on and thank you. Our guest for today, Dan Daly, has got tied up, and unfortunately, we'll have to reschedule. So we're going to be rebroadcasting a prior show, and I hope you stick around for that. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So thanks so much for being here. We look forward to catching up with you next week here on the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. Thank you, and have a great day. Hello, and welcome to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. Hello, thank you for joining us today. This is the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast, and we are very excited to have you with us today. As always, we thank you for being here, and please remember to like and subscribe to this particular show so we can keep more very educational commercial real estate podcast shows on the air. So thank you so much for being here today. And we're excited to have Brittany McGrath here with us, CCIM. And she's going to bring a lot of value to today's show. So we appreciate you being here, and I'm sure you get a lot out of it. Brittany is actually based out of Vegas, or is it? It is Vegas, right? Las Vegas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yes,
I know every time you say Nevada, everybody says Vegas, but there are more cities in Nevada than there are just Las Vegas. So I want to be fair about that. But Brittany, happy to have you with us today. Thanks for getting up out of bed early.
Hi, Joel. Thank you. No, I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you are the president of M Squared Commercial. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to this particular point in your life. This is exciting.
Sure. Yes. I own a brokerage here in Las Vegas. It's M Square Commercial. If I kind of rewind back in another life, I originally started as a ballet dancer.
Okay.
So I went to an arts college in North Carolina for ballet. I ended up dropping out. Well, not necessarily dropping out, but I transitioned and joined a ballet company.
Okay.
After that, and neither of my parents went to college, and getting a degree was very important to them. They didn't care where I got it from. They just literally wanted their daughter to have that piece of paper that says that, I graduated. So I transitioned to the University of Phoenix, which was actually the only online school at that time. I think now every university has some sort of online platform. But back then, University of Phoenix was the go-to online resource for your education. And I graduated with a business degree there. I danced in New York for about 6 years and then moved back to Las Vegas and joined a show here on the Strip. And I was a showgirl in Jubilee, Don Arden's Jubilee, and that show closed.
Okay.
And I transitioned into commercial real estate from the show. And to be fair, they were kind of overlapping at one point. So I was doing commercial real estate during the day, and then I would go and perform at night. And when the show closed, I pretty much just dove in full time into real estate. I worked at a small boutique brokerage here in Las Vegas. They were retail based. They had a couple shopping centers that I leased. And, the education was very minimal. I was told to sit at a desk. I was given a phone book and told if I wanted to make some money that I needed to find someone to lease the space in a shopping center.
Beat those phones, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Like no guidance, no script. I feel like there's a lot of structure right now for new brokers coming into the industry.
Yeah.
But it was really like just bootstrap. If you want something, you better go for it. If you want to get a paycheck, you better go for it. Put the bill together and figure it out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I did. I just kind of went for it, started leasing the shopping centers. Any opportunity to make extra money, I took. I overheard them talking about paying a maintenance guy to open the electrical room and paying a maintenance guy for fire riser room or to provide tenants with roof access. And I raised my hand and said, wait, you're paying somebody to do that? Like, you could
Yeah.
pay me
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that. I'll
Yeah.
do it. It was
Yeah.
like $25 a door or something. And so, I started like labeling the HVAC units, cleaning out trash enclosures, like just really anything I could do to make more money.
Yeah.
And then the CTIM program was presented to me,
Mhm.
and I really, took a hold of that. And that was a game changer
Mhm.
for my career in commercial real estate, really just with the educational aspect
Yeah.
from, just really learning how to look at deals, how to run numbers, how to use Excel. Getting my CTIM designation really kind of turned things around for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Let me
Yeah.
ask you something real quick before we go on with
Mhm.
that, because I'm still kind of thinking of, I was saying in my head, well, I don't remember any ballet show being advertised on the Vegas Strip. So I was like, how is she doing ballet in Vegas, right? So, but I
Yep.
get it. You actually transitioned to a different type of show and all of that. So yeah, so that's interesting. But that's still
Yep.
kind of a huge leap from showgirl to commercial real estate. What was that? What was going on in your head to say, I think I want to do that? Was it just seeing all the fancy hotel buildings, or I mean, what in the world made you make that shift?
Yeah, I had some family in real
Oh,
estate, and
okay.
so yeah, so I knew kinda what it was, and I needed that second job,
Okay.
really. The show, we weren't making tons of money,
Mhm.
really, and a lot of the girls some were teachers during the day, like substitute
Oh,
teachers, some
wow.
people were working at conventions, some people were, like, in hospitality during the day, and I just, I had been in hospitality in and out, just growing up, but I really didn't want to go back into the restaurant business during the
Right.
day. And I wanted something a little more like career path oriented.
Mhm.
And so I thought I would give it a shot. Honestly, I reached out and they said, well, we're not even going to talk to you until you get your license. And so I started there. Just
Okay.
okay. Well, I guess I'll go get my
I guess
license
I'll get my
and then
license.
figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
got my license before I even really knew what I was getting into,
Yeah.
which is and then of course the education that they provide in order for you to get your license really doesn't relate to
Mhm.
commercial real estate at all.
No, no, it doesn't. Yeah. No, you're right. You're 100% right. It's more, how many days before you have to do this, or it's like, how is that going to make me money, right?
Yeah.
It's just, this
Yeah.
is the law. You learn law, but you don't really learn, how you're going to make money. So, but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. No, 100%. But that's essentially how I got started. A job opportunity came up for an in-house position here in Las Vegas for a franchise.
Okay.
And that was True Fusion. They're a
Mhm.
fitness franchise, boutique fitness. I had just gotten my CTIM designation
Okay.
and was kind of excited to present it. And I applied to be an in-house real estate manager for this brand, and I got the job there. And I stayed at the brokerage doing leasing as well. And so I was doing rounds, cleaning the shopping centers in the morning, going to the fitness franchise during the day. I would do my showings at lunch, go back to the fitness,
Mm.
franchise in the afternoon. And I learned a great deal during this time as well because the brand worked with a preferred broker that, they recommended to all their franchisees for
Sure.
expansion. And this brokerage works nationally. So I was watching this brokerage do deals in Utah and in Colorado and in Philadelphia and wherever these franchisees had units, they were accommodating them. And I got to really be a part of it. And I learned this was Morrow Hill. They're based in Dallas, Texas. And I learned so much. John Hill and Chris Morrow were the principal brokers, and I would go on tours with them. I would watch them negotiate these deals for the franchisees. I would see how they tracked deals,
Mhm,
how they
mhm.
tracked multiple franchisees across different markets. And I really learned how to work nationally and at scale through this position and just sort of being in the background in house, watching their communication, as well as learning, when you're on the ops side, they're looking at things completely different. So they're
Right.
looking at, psychographics, the personalities and the trends of the people in these communities. And we're having success here with this demographic type. Can we replicate that demographic type in another market? And, so it was fascinating and it was a huge learning experience for me. Probably, I mean, you put that with the leasing job, which pretty much taught me to hustle.
Yeah, yeah.
You got your hustle and
Mhm.
then you got your education and you put
Right.
those together and, I mean, really in this business, you can't go wrong,
Yeah,
after that.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I was going to ask you because it seemed like you had some ties to Georgia because you're licensed in Georgia, and I was wondering what that connection was. Was that through True Fusion or was that just for some other reason?
So when I started my own company,
Mhm.
the one of the True Fusion franchisees was my first client.
Okay.
And so I had grown a good relationship while I was in house with him, and he was a multi-unit franchisee and also picked up multiple territories.
Mhm.
And one of those territories was Georgia.
Okay.
And so Georgia was my first market where I personally worked out of market and was trying to figure out, okay, how do I do this? Like,
Yeah.
do I get licensed everywhere I go, or do I
Mhm.
bring on local relationships? And I actually met a broker there in Georgia, and he told me, well, Georgia is actually like pretty friendly with getting licensed. Like, you can really go
Just do it.
through the process pretty easily.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and just get your own license. And I was like, "Oh, really?" And so I did. I
Okay.
went through that process and I did go down the path of like, oh, okay, which states have reciprocity with which states and
Mhm.
how many licenses do you think you can get? And I didn't get that far, but it's definitely like an educational experience looking at all the states and all the licenses. Now, I will tell you that I am 100%. I really leaned into local broker relationships.
Okay.
Probably 80% of the deals that we do annually are through a partner in some
Okay.
way, shape, or form, whether it's just using their license as a broker of record or if it's a true partnership.
Mhm.
We've I've really leaned into that space for multiple reasons, and we get referrals through brokers that initially I met them to be my local broker. They come back, if they've got a client in Vegas and we honor that. But the broker relationships and building those
Mhm.
relationships has done wonders for my business in
Gotcha.
general. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Sounds good. I do want to ask you one other question before we really jump into kind of the meat and potatoes that most of our audience is going to want to hear. Where'd the name come from? M squared. It's kind of unique from that standpoint. Any thought?
It's not overly creative, unfortunately. It's like my last name and middle name, and just it's more has to do with just the name McGrath.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So no rocket science went into it. Nothing
No,
created
no.
from NASA or nothing. Okay.
And I've actually thought of like rebranding, but I haven't taken that step yet because it's a lot of work to rebrand
Yeah, it
and
is. Yeah.
especially after you put so much work into people getting to know you under your current brokerage, I feel like
Mhm.
it's a massive undertaking, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, let me ask you one question. You worked across multiple markets. What would you say is really the biggest disconnect today between what a seller thinks their land is worth and what developers can actually pay for a particular site? Where's that disconnect between sellers and buyers that you found in the marketplace today?
This is a great question and
Mhm.
something that I am in the midst of feeling the pain probably pretty much every day.
Yeah.
It's honestly it's fascinating what sellers think that their property is worth today. And it's a tough discussion because it does seem like somebody from somewhere is trying to make it work.
Mhm.
And right now we come across so many sellers in different markets. So I wouldn't even say that this is a market specific discussion. It is national because no matter if they are in Tennessee or Washington or Georgia, New Jersey, Florida, this is happening everywhere. Maybe in some markets a little more so than others, but it is a big discussion
Mhm.
and it is not market specific. And I'm not totally sure if it's going to back away from because it's not just the land, right? We've also got the cost of construction to overcome and the interest rates to overcome. And so the land is really your biggest negotiating point of any
Mhm.
development deal.
Right.
So if you're starting high and everything else is high, you're really you're high on your rent. And the developer can only really, squeeze so much. And these tenants can only sell so much coffee and so many cheeseburgers. And, it's a big discussion. And I think probably the pandemic when interest rates were really low had a
Mhm.
big impact on this. I think uses like car washes have also created a discrepancy and a misconception because
Mm.
some car washes, owner operator car washes that are PE backed can pay big money. And then their neighbor is, Joe
Mhm.
Schmo that had this commercial properties like, this guy just sold for $4 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm right next to him.
Right. Right.
4 million too.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit bigger. And they
Mhm.
just that's what's happening. And unfortunately, well, that was the use. That was the
Yeah.
buyer that could buy at that price point.
Mhm.
No one else can.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm just saying it's that the conception is there. A deal has been done at
Right.
that price point. And so now everyone, it's like the neighbors in the community. Now
Mhm.
everyone's looking around like, man, that house sold for X. I can get that too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me ask this because I don't, we do work with sellers, in the personal stuff that we do. Let's take our 20-second break. We'll be right back to continue this discussion with Brittany McGrath.
How do you build a company that lasts? One with a solid foundation that gets better with time, transforming the first dollar in your bank account into something more, building a product, a team, a culture, expanding to new countries, currencies, and customers, and accessing the capital you need to grow. How do you do all of that? With powerfully smooth banking that keeps you focused on bringing your vision to life.
Step into the future with EcoCrypt, a platform unifying decentralized finance with real-world utility, where value flows freely. From gaming achievements to real-world assets, everything can be tokenized, fractional, and accessible in one trusted ecosystem. For gamers, investors, and global communities, EcoCrypt is breaking down barriers and democratizing finance. Join the revolution. Visit ecocryptusa.com today.
Welcome back to the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. Again, we have Brittany McGrath here with us from M Squared Commercial. So before we went to break, we were talking about the big disconnect between buyers and sellers, mainly sellers understanding the value of their property. Let me just ask you this, Brittany. Is it a matter of sellers really not caring what the numbers need to be for a developer to develop a project? Or is it just, like you said before, well, so-and-so got X, I should be able to get X too? Is that really just simply what it boils down to? People just want to get what everybody else got, totally ignoring what the development cost is and what type of yields they have to hit. And like you said, how many hamburgers can you sell? How many cups of coffee can you sell? So is that really what it's boiling down to?
I don't know if it's all like for like in general,
Okay.
but I will say that a lot of the property owners even that we speak to, a lot are off market. That's what we do. We're essentially like a parcel cold caller, right? I'm
Okay.
just calling property by property in a trade area that I know my client, the developer, can get a deal done if we land. somewhere around here.
Right.
And not all of these sellers, like not all of these property owners are developers. Not all of them are commercial real estate experts. Some of
Right.
them just happen to own a property
Yeah. They
that
inherited
they've
some
had.
land. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
inherited some land, and good news, 20 years later, it's in the middle of a main commercial retail trade area.
Right.
And so the understanding of your development budgets and even the time that it's going to take to get from A to B is not always there right off the bat. And it is our job, as the broker, to have those conversations with some of these sellers and to try to really educate them on what we are doing and how we are really giving them the best value for their property. We're not trying to undercut because we've got a tenant in tow. We know how
Mhm.
much we can pay. And, you know, the idea that someone's just going to come up and buy your property is very far and few, in between with a commercial real
Yeah.
estate transaction.
Right.
So the perception that some of the sellers have, really, you've got to educate them on what's happening. And they're not in tune with your budget and how this is penciling. They're simply looking at the value of their land and trying to get the most that they possibly can, and
Mhm.
even in the shortest amount of time,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
sometimes, it's maybe they'll get it and maybe they won't. Maybe they're just going to keep trying for a
Mhm.
while until it's, obvious to them that what they're asking for isn't a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to speak to that a little bit as well, because I think there is a disconnect. And, fortunately for me, I've been on both sides of the table. So I get it. You do want to get most for your money. But in
Mhm.
development, we always look at a thing called basis, right? So what's your basis going in? And if that basis isn't where it needs to be, the rest of the deal doesn't work. So,
Yep.
you got to look at your construction cost, which is a moving target, right? If the president announced tariffs, structure costs go through the roof, right? I mean, it could be
Yep.
anything that could totally upset the apple cart, right? You hear about there's, layoffs in a particular market. Okay, so now people don't have the income in order to rent this unit at that particular price you were going to rent at. So that's an issue. And it
Yep.
just goes on and on and on. And you've got dynamic pricing now in certain marketplaces. So it's a real challenge. And at the end of the day, what I think a lot of people don't realize is that the deal has to be financeable. And if the equity coming into the deal says I need X return on my equity, and you can't get there because the land is too expensive, the deal
Yep.
doesn't work.
Yep.
And that's it.
100%.
Right. And
Hmm.
and so where is the savings going to come from? You can just jack rents just so high, right? Because your
Yep.
underwriters are going to say no, it's too high, then it's not going to work anyway, so you can't fake it. And it's just you either bring the land down, you bring the construction budget down, you do something, but at some point, if all those matrices don't come together, it just doesn't work. And
Yep.
and I think a lot of sellers are like, well, I don't care, but if you don't care, your land's going to sit,
Exactly. That
right?
we have a deal going on right now where, and I really enjoy this seller. And it's unfortunate because he has been under contract multiple times and every deal has died.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, he still is trying to negotiate that premium, although he doesn't know why the other deals have died.
Yeah.
And so we have started doing our homework, and it turns out the site work costs, not only the land costs, but the site work costs specifically
Hmm.
on this site are through the roof
Yeah.
because of the topography conditions. And so, in order to even get your site into like a pad ready buildable state, the the site work numbers are just absurdly expensive.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, once you put together your total project budget, it's at a place that the rents in the market or that the tenant would pay
Yeah. Can't
are,
support it. Yeah.
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 So we are going back to the seller.
Yeah.
And because I also know that one of his pain points has been that his prior deals the developers have not been transparent. So
Okay.
they've literally terminated, said it doesn't work, thanks, no thanks,
Right.
walk away.
And not give a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
so we are going to go back and really show him, like, here's our budget. Here we have spent money. We put a grading plan together. This is what we're seeing. That your site work number is here with land costs, with construction costs. This is our total project. See this rent number down here? They will not pay it. But this is what we would need in order to cover everything that you see here. But say we only purchase a portion of the property for X, instead of Y. Now we're in a we're in a space where we can make this an opportunity. But now the purchase price is significantly lower than the seller had in mind.
Yeah.
And whether he's gonna entertain this or not, I'm not sure. But we do have a tenant interested. We can get the deal done, but it's gonna be taking on a portion of the property at about half of the price that we previously negotiated.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me
You
ask
know?
this. Have you seen questions where, or situations where the land seller is willing to contribute their land as part of the basis or contribute part of their equity as part of the basis in order to get the deal done and participate in the waterfall on the backside? Or most of your sellers just like, I don't care about all that. Just give me my money. I want to go to Florida.
I have not had a deal where we've kind of come together and they
Okay.
contributed to the land, at least for any of the clients that I'm working with. We have a unique deal right now in Florida, actually, where these property owners have a great piece of property and they are trying to figure out what to do with it. And my clients have thrown that in as an option. Like,
Okay.
if you guys would want to hang on to a piece and we kind of develop a portion of it and leave you some like ground lease opportunities
Hmm.
within the project,
Hmm.
because it's a larger deal and you
Yeah.
would be able to fit multiple single tenant, net lease opportunities on here.
Hmm.
And so we're trying to get a little bit more creative with this opportunity in order to incentivize the sellers a little
Right.
bit more. Hmm.
Yeah. And are they biting or is it just, or is this something you're right in the mix of right now? So we don't really have an answer as to whether it worked or not.
Yeah, no, I don't know. We just submitted our like initial offering with our package, all of the completed projects that they've done, and just the end of last week. And
Okay.
so I followed up and I'm waiting to hear back. I will keep you posted.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. We had a deal where, you know what, let me not talk about that because our seller might be listening to this show. So yeah, let me protect my own interests. But yeah, I mean it's interesting. Once a lot of times the sellers don't understand development, and so it's easy to say, well, you're going to be making all this money. Why don't you pay X? But the only way
Yeah.
we make all that money is by not paying X, right?
Mhm.
So you gotta figure that out. Let me ask this. I know some of our listeners are somewhat new to the game as it relates to commercial real estate. What would you say that the top tier developers understand about land development and acquisition that the newbies don't, that they often
Mm.
might find themselves in trouble about because they don't understand really how this works? What are the potholes and the things they need to be aware of, would you say?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say having the end game in mind,
Okay.
because a lot of experienced developers, they already know so there's a timeline with
Mhm.
development,
Right.
right? When you execute that contract, your clock is starting.
Yeah.
And that clock can have all sorts of, contingencies, provisions attached to it with regard to money going non-refundable and additional funds being submitted. And so once your clock starts, you are like, it's game on,
Yeah. Even
right? And
entitlements got
so,
to be factored in, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Mhm.
you're spending money on due diligence as you
Mhm.
kind of do your homework through the process. So money's going out, your clock is starting. You need to know, like, you need to be buttoned up, I feel like, before you even start a
Mhm.
little bit. a lot. And I think the best and most successful developments, you kind of know who you're working with from the tenant standpoint already, like
Mhm.
early on. You're already talking to those tenants, getting a feel. You've already got your site plan. You've already got maybe a conceptual budget before your timeline has even started. So you've got the commitment, even if they haven't signed a lease, you've got some form of commitment on your exit strategy, meaning
Right.
the tenants in place. And if you've got that commitment from those tenants, the exit's there. The
Yeah.
exit's coming in place.
Mhm.
And I think it's risky when you execute a contract and you start going for its spec, and then you're trying to kind of find the
Figure it
tenants,
out.
like yeah,
Yeah.
because one, you're putting a lot of money at risk. You are potentially wasting time.
Mhm.
And two, tenants are slow.
Yeah.
Like there is just majority of tenants are not fast, right? And so they could be, oh yeah, we're interested. 2 weeks later, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll send an offer. Okay, I mean,
Mhm.
it is a process with these tenants. And if you don't have an idea of the site plan and the tenant and how much money they're going to pay, like you're really the risk of everything that you're doing is just significantly increased.
Yeah.
And I think the whole game of development is, I mean, the risk is here. How do I, keep
Yeah.
it
Bring it down.
minimized? Yes.
Mhm.
And so you can tell, I think that the developers that really know what they're doing, they're experienced, they're in the game, they're doing multiple deals a year. They're having conversations behind closed doors with their tenants, with their retailers already. And that's what's kind of guiding them. And as they start negotiating on a site, they're already negotiating with the tenant based on the
Mhm.
land price that they kind of see transpiring on the
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think that's a very, very valid point. And the reason I say that is because I think what happens a lot of times is people see a site, like you said earlier, at Main and Main, and it's like, oh my God, I could build anything here and make a fortune. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, well, yeah, real estate is location, location, location. I got a great
Mhm.
location. I can build something, right? And
Mhm.
they go out and try to, acquire the property and do all these things. And it's like, if you don't have your exit pretty much nailed down, as you mentioned, you can just wind up spinning to the cows come home and nothing really gets done, and that's
Yeah.
why sometimes you see main and main sites that are just sitting because
Mhm.
maybe there is a lot of things like you mentioned earlier about site work. Maybe there's massive site work. Maybe there's massive rock under the ground that has to be dealt with. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
brownfield site, where there's contamination. Maybe, I mean, there's 100 different things that could be there. And
Oh, yes.
just looking at the street sign saying Main and Main is not enough to give
Oh,
you a successful deal.
and there is so much. And, I mean, with all that being said, depending on how you're going to finance the deal
Yeah.
and purchase the land, I mean, your deal comes into play.
Yeah.
If you've got the tenant secured and you've got a clean deal to present to a lender or any of your partners, I mean,
Mhm.
that's surety right there. And it will make the whole transaction much smoother.
Yeah.
If you've got willy-nilly tenants, nothing's really set, it's harder. It's
Yeah.
harder to get the financing, the backing, the confidence, to back
Yeah,
you.
to do that. Yeah. I know
Mhm.
at one point, at least I believe, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, you were focused on multifamily, but you're now focused more on retail. Is that the case? And no? Okay, well,
No,
clarify. Uh,
I've always been in retail.
okay,
I
okay,
started, yeah, with the leasing in the shopping centers and then have kind of transitioned a little bit more into like that ground up single tenant net lease space and representing
okay,
developers.
okay, okay.
Mhm.
All right, sounds good,
Mhm.
sounds good. I want to talk to you a little bit about multi-tenant developments and how that is changing. There was, well, put it this way, anchor tenants from years ago has definitely changed over the years, especially due to COVID and things of that sort. So I want to dive into that a little bit, but we're going to take a quick commercial break and we will be right back from one of our sponsors. And we'll look forward to being here with you again in a couple of seconds on the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast.
The Impact Air 99. We asked real people, try the Impact Air 99.
Breathable, light, but protective.
Feels very comfortable wearing it. It looks cooler.
It's almost surprising how much air you can get in.
Engineered with 6 layers of nanoscreen technology that blocks over 99% of viruses and bacteria while allowing you to breathe freely and speak clearly.
My glasses are not fogging up.
I could wear this all day.
Sage Data is your automated recruiting hub for any size organization. The concept is simple. If you have lists of prior applicants, Sage Data will clean, update, and convert those lists into digital resume profiles that are searchable. You can also post unlimited jobs in the system, and our AI will automatically search the database and bring back potential candidates for you. Head over to sagedata.io.
Welcome back to the Mornings with Joel series podcast. We're here with Brittany McGrath from M Squared Commercial. So before we went to commercial break, we talked about multi-tenant developments and how that is actually changing with rising construction costs and things of that sort. What are you seeing is really the key to successful retail development these days as we think about our tenant base? You know, what's working and what's not working? What do we need to be careful of, would you say, in the markets that you cover?
I think right now it is an interesting space. And obviously, as we chatted about earlier, costs are really the driver with, I think, some of these retail tenants and developers alike getting a little more creative with either how they're leasing space or how they're developing space for lease.
Okay.
And so we've been seeing freestanding QSRs that are now end cap drive-throughs. You're seeing developers who used to be primarily single tenant net lease, freestanding QSRs, freestanding drive-throughs, freestanding car wash, building or incorporating a multi-tenant building into their project. And I think because of cost, like we were saying earlier, finding that gem of a 1 acre pad that pencils perfectly for that QSR tenant is just a needle in a haystack right now.
Yeah.
And so developers are finding 3 acres or 5 acres, and because they can get that on a lower price per square foot. And then if they spread out the costs and develop
Over
multiple tenants
Yeah. Okay.
over multiple tenants, the
Mhm.
numbers start to work a little bit
Right.
better. And so you're seeing people go larger, some of their initial buys, and split that up into a multi-parcel, multi-tenant type concept. So you'll have a freestanding QSR separately parceled, and then you'll have a multi-tenant building, and then maybe you'll have oil change or something along those lines.
Right.
But it's really numbers that drive all of these changes, all of the creativity. It's just, how can we make the math work?
Sure,
Really.
sure. And for our audience that's not in retail, define QSR, just so that we have terms that everybody understands.
Yes, a quick service restaurant like
Okay.
your McDonald's or your
Mhm.
Popeyes,
Yep. Okay.
any fast food. Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So hopefully everybody has that down. So are you seeing it that works? Because from what I'm not the retail guru, from that standpoint, because I don't sit in your shoes. But I know that there has been a big shift when it comes from the type of tenants that most companies are going after, and to kind of give you a hint as to what I'm thinking about is what we would call the Amazon effect, or people getting Amazoned, from that standpoint. So what shifts have you seen there, and is that still going on because of online shopping?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we as consumers have definitely changed the way that we shop and buy groceries and things of that nature. But your Walmart is always going to be your Walmart. That's
Yeah.
driving, 1.5 to 3.5 million people per year, depending on the location in the market. And retailers are going to flock to those traffic generators. Even if it's less than it was, it's still going to be more than any other, traffic generator out there. And the retailers want to be near that traffic, and convenience, food, car wash, oil change, these types of service oriented businesses
Mhm.
are still there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there for you. They're in business. There are other changes with, people holding on to their cars longer. And so you're seeing a lot of these auto service retailers doing really well right now. So I think there is a shift, but, it's still your Costco's and your Walmarts. I mean, they're always going to be such big traffic generators for these retailers that it's just not going to make sense to be, too far away from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's actually very interesting. Well, let me ask this first. Do you think that the companies that were impacted by, I'll just call it the Amazon effect, if you will, we're like the Circuit Cities, the Toys R Us, those type of places. Do you think the majority of those that were most affected have been weeded out of the marketplace at this point? Or is there still a concern that certain real retailers are not going to make it? And or have they pivoted? And the reason why I asked that, give you an example. In the area that I live, we had a Target that was fantastic store, but they didn't do any grocery component. And as a result, they went away. Right?
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and groceries obviously could be bought online as well, but it seems like people physically like to buy their groceries as opposed to having some kid walk through the store and pick your bacon out and just throw it in the cart for you. So do you think a Walmart, for an example, pivoting to, first of all, online retail and also doing grocery has enabled them to survive, and are other retailers doing the same? Or what are we really seeing in the marketplace out there to know that what works? Because like you said, you're not going to go online and get a haircut, right? You gotta physically do that, right? So, how is that all playing out?
The service-oriented businesses 100% are thriving. I mean, we're seeing new brands even pop up every day that are actively expanding. So the consumer habits of, yes, I do think stores like your Circuit City, I mean, we're seeing it still, like even your Walgreens and your CVS, where people used to stop in and pick up quick little things. They're now just getting it direct to their door.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
if they've got Amazon Prime, it could be there, I don't know, in an hour or
yeah.
that same day, certainly. So some of those businesses, yes. I mean, we've just been watching, and getting their disposition lists, in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you're seeing brands like O'Reilly's, AutoZone that are in active expansion in the auto retail industry.
Now why is
So,
that? Let me
yeah.
ask you that. Why is that? Because, if I
Mhm.
know I need a water pump for a 2003 Toyota, right? It's
Yep.
so common. I should be able to go to eBay or online to some other vendor and just buy the thing and order it. If I buy it at whatever auto repair shop, they're not going to put it in, so I still got to put it in, right?
Yep.
So why are they thriving and people not just ordering those online? That's a very interesting demographic shift that we see going on here as to why people aren't doing that. But
It
why is
is.
that? Why are they expanding when these products can be bought online? You can buy a car battery online, right? Sure, you can
That's
buy the
true.
whole.
I
So
probably within the auto industry, and this is just a guess,
okay,
that, people probably have more questions
okay,
and need more guidance and possibly education on what they're buying. Buying things online, you really need to know what you're doing. I
yeah,
mean, you're
yeah,
buying
yeah.
it, you don't have any questions. I know what I want, I'm ordering it, it'll be here tomorrow. Great. But I think there are specific niches like auto where people have questions about
Hmm.
the different parts.
Right.
Will this work in my car? I've got a new car. Does it still work? Or my car is from, 1997 Chevy. Do you still make this part? And people are keeping their vehicles longer
Yeah.
now, especially because of some of the tariff impact and things of that nature. And so
Hmm.
maintenance on maintenance on vehicles is thriving right now because
Hmm.
the better you maintain, the longer it will last. And people know that.
Yeah.
But I would lean towards it being like a guidance thing. People have got questions, they want to know if this is the right fit. And if you order it offline, you're taking the risk that it's the wrong part.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And and I'm guessing as well, because I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking the question. Maybe it's just that the mechanics also like to just physically buy it and touch and feel it and look at it, and and have the idea of, if it doesn't work, I can turn around and take it right back, and
Yep.
maybe that has something to do with it. But it's amazing how, like you said, they're going through expansion when others are regressing, in that same industry. Because it seemed for a minute there, anything you could order online, you're toast if you're not providing that service. So I
Yep.
thought that's quite interesting. Let me just a couple of other things I wanted to ask you about also. The question about the capital stack. Are you seeing more developers going the more traditional route for capital, or because of the different constraints, bank appetites, banks, a lot of times a bank might have a overcapacity of a certain product in their portfolio, and they can't
Hmm.
loan to any more AutoZone type stores. So they won't do that. What are you seeing? Is there a shift in the capital stack and the way people are financing deals, or is it still, as it's always been? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's interesting because every developer, especially that we work with, really obtains financing and approaches financing a little bit differently.
Okay.
And financing is really very unique to, I think, the individual, the sponsor, or group that's obtaining it, and what they're looking for the outcome to be. Because really, I think how you finance a deal really drives how you're going to exit from the
Yeah,
deal,
big time.
and
Yeah.
so depending on what you want your options to be, what your liquidity is, people are putting together their financing a little bit differently. And as an example, we've got one client, they're self-financed, they're very traditionally financed. They go
Mhm.
through local lenders in every market that they work in,
Okay.
and they've got banking relationships, and it's very, I'll say, traditional in that sense. Then we've got other groups maybe that are a little bit smaller, they're taking a little bit more risk, and they're bringing on capital partners that could be financing the whole cost of the project 100%.
Hmm.
But that is expensive capital,
Yeah.
and they cannot hold that asset. Once they get that asset up, it's got to sell. The sooner it sells, the better,
Yeah.
because really the longer they hold, they're paying to hold it.
Yeah. Carrying costs will kill
Y-
them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really different versus the developer that has traditional financing. Well, they can hold. They can hold and look at the markets and wait until they feel like they'll get the best exit out of that deal.
Yeah.
And so those two scenarios are driven very differently, and there are different pressures, on the outcome.
Yeah. Gotcha. Let me ask you an opinion question, and I say that because every market is different, every situation is somewhat different, but we always hear that retail follows rooftops, right?
Mhm.
So you want to see a bunch of subdivisions go in, and then the retail is going to follow behind it to service those people. How do you make sure you're not getting too ahead of that curve? Like, for an example, you might say, well, let me get in now while the land is cheap, but then something might happen like COVID or something else, and then that area stalls. Or you might have a situation where a neighborhood is gentrifying, and it
Mhm.
starts and then it seems like it stops. I mean, how do you gauge that? Or how have you found your more successful developers gauging that so that they're successful in a case like that?
Yes.
I know, tough
So
question, right?
but it is, but it's also, at least where we are today in the projects that I'm doing today, we are not the first one there.
Okay, okay.
Meaning, like, we're not, as of right now, I'll say maybe I will be on a project in the future where we're
Mhm.
the Costco developer or something along those lines. But we have not been the cornerstone that has come in and marked a site as a major retail corridor,
Mhm.
which is your Costcos, your Walmarts, like those big traffic
Right.
generators that we discussed earlier.
Mhm.
They are making big decisions, and they are going out into these areas where the rooftops are under construction. But once you hear a Walmart has pulled permits or Costco has pulled permits or there is a big project coming, that is when we come in. And we've got all of those supporting retailers, I'll call them, that want to follow those big projects. And so those big retail traffic generators are really the foundation for us to move into a market. And they are also doing their homework with the rooftops. And so I'd say on my end with the projects that we're doing, which is mostly in that single tenant net lease retail space, it is rooftops, but it's also the anchors. We're following the anchors just as much as the rooftops.
Okay. All right. So which is there's a converse to that could be hurtful from the standpoint of real estate values start to shoot up because everybody else hears about it. And it's like, oh, well, they're coming out. I know I could get a lot more for my land. But it's similar to the stock market even. You know, you hear that some major hedge fund has bought a gazillion shares of something and you're trying to be like that pilot fish next to the shark that's just following wherever they go to get your piece. But I mean, it's certainly a good strategy for a smaller company, but you have to understand that you might pay a little bit more for the land once that goes public.
Yes, and if you're early enough, that's when you can really still kind of take advantage. If it's vertical, and up, I mean, it's already probably hard to find dirt. Like people are already kind of flocking. But on the flip side, it's like it's really hard to get like a McDonald's or like a Chipotle or an Aspen Dental to approve a site if it's just in the middle of nowhere and there is no anchor. Right. So you kind of that timing is very sensitive.
Yeah. A market center kind of anchor that can tie everything down. Yeah. I get it. So, all right. Well, that's fantastic. Well, we're just about up on time. So I think this was a great conversation. I'm not going to throw any more at you because I know you got a hard stop coming. Is there anything you want to share with our audience before we wrap up today? I think this was very insightful because we don't have a lot of retail guests, which is one reason why I wanted to have you on. But what would you want our audience to know as we go away from our discussion today?
You can reach out to me anytime. Brittany McGrath, based here in Las Vegas. Our brokerage is M Square Commercial. Retail is not dead. We are actively helping developers expand. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Sounds good. And as always, guys, if you want to reach any guests, just reach out to me and I'll make sure we make those connections for you. So, Brittany, this has been fantastic. It turned out to be a great conversation. I enjoy all the areas that we were able to go into and your national scope, because Vegas is its your own unique market in itself.
It is.
Almost like New Orleans, right? Or New York City. Those areas are different. But when you get into, your experience in being in multiple markets gives a lot more diversification of thought, which I think is important. So I appreciate that. But it's been great. And for all of you with us today, I hope you enjoyed the discussion as well. As you play it, make sure you like and subscribe to the show. And thank you so much for being here today, here at the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. We look forward to having you with us again. And again, we want to thank Brittany McGrath for taking out time to be with us today. Thank you so much and have a great day. Okay. And Jamal, let us know.
Yeah, I'm just playing the podcast invite, Joel.
Okay.
We're good.
We're clear?
Yeah, I will end the live soon, but we're not on live.
We're not on live. Okay. All right. Great. Yeah. So Brittany, so good show. I thought it went well.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah,
that was great. I appreciate the conversation.
Sure. And you didn't get tripped up on nothing, which is always my concern. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. So, that was good. It went really well. So, but I know it's like right at 12. So, my time, which is 1:00 actually. I know you got to run. So you want to just send me an email and we catch up, later today, tomorrow, whatever the case is, some other time this week?
Yeah, I'll just respond to our invite here and just shoot you an email. And then, whenever you're free, I can just call you direct or send out a Teams. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Now, Jomar monitors that email address, so but he'll make sure it gets forwarded over to me, and I'll get back to you. So, but I appreciate it, and thanks for being here. And if we can do something together, absolutely.
Okay, All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Have a great afternoon.
Bye, you too.
Okay, bye-bye. See you later. All right.
Are you ready to level up in commercial real estate? Join us on Mornings with Joel CRE podcast, where we bring you exclusive interviews with top deal makers, investors, and industry leaders. Sponsors reach a high-value audience of real estate professionals. Guests share your expertise and grow your influence. Don't miss out. Book your spot today